By now, you've almost certainly heard of DOGE. That is the White House's Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk. He is looking to slash trillions of dollars from the federal budget. His team has already been dispatched to more than a dozen federal agencies. The cuts have not been surgical. DOGE is taking a wrecking ball approach to federal bureaucracy, and the legal challenges keep coming. On Saturday, a federal judge temporarily blocked DOGE from accessing the Treasury Department's records that contain sensitive personal data. On X, Musk called the judge in question, quote, corrupt, and demanded his impeachment. Now, some fear Musk is using the tech world playbook from his Twitter takeover, where he eliminated 80% of staffers nearly and is applying that to the federal government. So who's next? In a pre-Super Bowl interview with Fox News, President Trump said this.
Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I campaigned on this, Brett.
You announced tariffs.
Little is known about DOGE's structure, who they're accountable to, exactly who their employees are, and where they're recruiting from. Well, Wired has been reporting on all of that and more. We are now joined by Wired's global editorial director, Katie Drummond. Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You guys have been doing tons of reporting on DOGE. Let's start with who are the people behind DOGE and where were they found? Tell us about the employees, what you know about them, and how they were recruited.
Absolutely. Let me start by saying what I think is important, which is that there's a lot that we still don't know. So we are publishing what we know as we learn it and are able to confirm it. What we do know is that DOGE is made up of, a lot of young men. These are primarily men aged 19 to 25 with backgrounds.
Really young.
Really young. Little to no government experience, primarily backgrounds as interns or employees at tech companies, including many companies owned by Musk himself. We published new reporting over the weekend with more detail on exactly how they were recruited. So I think there was some notion that, these young men have ties to Musk. Maybe they were sort of handpicked by him from these companies. It looks like it was more of a sort of broad recruiting effort that was conducted online, in online chat groups, some dedicated to former Palantir employees, another group where SpaceX interns were congregating, really with sort of short messages saying, are you free for the next 6 months? Do you want to fix the federal government? We've got a job for you. Come join DOGE. So we published that reporting this weekend that I think just sort of shows, these were not exactly hand-picked individuals. They were individuals in these online chat groups, at least in part, who raised their hand and wanted to be part of this effort.
So they have access to all these big systems within the government, tech systems involving payments and people's personal information, and you hear that and you think, I'm worried. So where are they, what are they accessing, and what's the best case that they could do in there, and what's the worst case?
So we know of, more than a dozen federal agencies where DOGE workers are now stationed, right? And so they have access to all sorts of information, right? Largely, what we believe Musk and DOGE are looking for is savings, right? They're looking to cut costs. So that might come in the form of accessing information about personnel, salaries, performance reviews. It might come from accessing financial data, procurement data. How much is this federal agency spending on these contracts? In the case of the Treasury Department specifically, we published reporting last week indicating that at least 2 DOGE workers had access to these Treasury Department payment systems that are responsible for paying out upwards of $5 trillion in federal payments every year. So there's been a lot of back and forth on exactly what kind of access that was. But in a best case scenario, we could say, okay, these are, this is a group of smart individuals at the behest of the president and the behest of Musk who are looking for places to cut costs, okay, or to trim down this bureaucracy. The worst case scenario, right, is that you have, individuals with little to no government experience accessing systems responsible for trillions of dollars in federal payments, including, something as sensitive and granular as your Social Security payments, your tax refund. I'm talking to you, the individual, right? That's how granular these systems get. I think it's pretty easy to extrapolate a worst case scenario from there.
So DOGE is certainly disrupting things, but that's what this administration was elected to do, to disrupt the current, business as usual. Is there an advantage to using this business approach to the federal government, or is it really concerning to apply this, kind of tech model to government?
I think one of the reasons Wired was well positioned to cover this story, right, is that we've covered Musk and we've covered the tech industry for a long time. We've covered startups. We understand the Musk playbook when he goes into a company, what he does. What we know about startups and what we know about the tech industry is that this move fast, break things model that is often applied in that industry and often applied by Musk often does break things. The United States government is not a startup. If we treat it like a startup, there is a high probability and a high risk, in our view, that it will break. And that's probably something that we want to keep relatively intact. Are there changes, are there efficiencies within the federal bureaucracy that we could find, right? Is there cost to cut there? I have no doubt. I'm sure there is, right? It's a very large bureaucracy. It is not a startup. It is not a tech company. It's the federal government.
So does Elon Musk or Donald Trump, and part of the reason the government is so unwieldy is because it's a bureaucracy, it's a command structure with lots of approvals and sign-offs and everything, and people hate that about it.
Yeah.
Now you don't have that. You just have Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Is it possible for them to be overseeing this with any kind of attention to the detail?
As far as we understand it now, all of our reporting shows, there's not a lot of rigor or sort of detail-based analysis going on. I mean, this is a slash and burn. It has been 3 weeks since Donald Trump was inaugurated. 3 weeks. We are talking about DOGE workers in more than a dozen federal agencies. It's very hard to imagine how rigor and specificity are being applied on that kind of timeline.
And the 6-month timeline is also interesting. I mean, that's short.
6 months, not a lot of time.
Yeah.
That is really quick. Meanwhile, CBS polling says the president's approval rating is at 53%.
Yeah.
So
All-time high.
country's still with him. All right, Katie Drummond, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.